expression board, how you rip and tear, sometimes nipping the ends off your fingers. Lay it flat and pull it lightly towards you over the cabbage. The weight of the knife across the cabbage is all that's necessary. Why, ladies, when you get slaw cut as fine as this, you'll certainly appreciate eating it. The crowning feature of the set is the cutter that I'm going to show you now. This is known as the Champeen Vegetable Mincing Knife and Noodle Cutter. Now, when you want to make some real fine noodles at home, you roll the dough out like this. Dip this into a little flour so it doesn't stick to the dough, and as you roll it over the dough, that will cut the noodles in long strips, 10 at a time. Did you ever try to chop up a little nuts for cake? Why, I've seen ladies chop nuts and the nuts land up on the ceiling. Sometimes you chop the ends off your fingers when you want to chop up a little nuts for cake. Cooked meat, clams for chowder, soup greens to throw into your soup. Making a little pepper or chicken hash is just a few strokes rolling it up and down. Why, here is without a doubt the meanest thing in the world to cut parsley. Put that in a grinder, you really grind it too fine. This machine, instead of crushing the parsley, cuts it quick, clean, and dry, leaving every bit of the juice and every bit of the flavor. Now, to clean this machine, you press the button. Rinse it out in a little water. When you're through using it, hang it up and let it dry. Here's one here that every lady should have in her home, known as the Parisian scoop. You lay it flat, once to the right, once to the left. When you scoop them out, you'll get a perfect round little ball. You can pot roast these, cut them out of cheese or cut them out of butter. When you're serving a fruit cocktail in the summertime, take your fresh cantaloupe, scoop them out like this, mix them with apples, pears, and watermelons, makes a delicious fruit cocktail served with a little cracked ice like you see here. But here is a tool, ladies, if you ever do get it, you'll thank the day you've seen this demonstration. When you press, it locks. It's like a pair of human hands. Reach in the oven and take the biscuits out of the oven. Ever take the hot potatoes out of the oven and burn yourself on the elbow? A roast chicken out of the oven, a piece of meat out of the pot, spinach, asparagus out of the water. Why, around canning season, when you're preserving the fruits, to take the hot fruit jars out of the water like that, that machine is worth dollars to you. And here's another one that I really know you'll enjoy having in your kitchen, known as the safety grater. No doubt you're familiar with the old-fashioned grater. I've seen ladies take a grater and rip the knuckles off. When you want to grate up potatoes for delicious potato pancakes, this has a smooth, flat edge, impossible to cut yourself. Just like you were washing clothes, you rub it up and down, and you really grate your vegetables real fine, retaining all the flavors and all the juices. Breadcrumbs for when you're serving veal cutlets or anything like that. You want a little breadcrumbs to fry your fish in? Why, there's the greatest proposition in the world. Use that for coconut, cheese, or horseradish. When you're through with it, just heat it down like that. That knocks all the food out. Rinse it out in a little water and hang it up and let it dry. Now, here is a stone made of carborundum and sapphire quartz, which is made purposely to keep these knives sharp. When they get dull, a few strokes over the edge like this, and you can put a keen cutting edge on it. If you have a dull knife or a dull pair of scissors, an old sickle or a scythe, a lawnmower, cleaver, an axe, there's a tool that will really put an edge on the knife so the knife will really cut for you. I just want to give you an idea of how sharp that knife really is when you sharpen it with that stone. Ladies, I've seen some of you try to open up cans. Now, there's a can of Campbell's baked beans. I've seen ladies open up a can and you poke a hole in it, go around the top, hippity-hop, and your finger slips. Let me show you a real proposition. Look, lay it on the can, lift up the safety, and turn the key. That locks itself on the can. No harder than you were winding up your watch. Wind up the key and that'll cut the top off of the can slick and smooth. Notice how the end raises itself up in the air so you can lift the lid off, giving you a clean, smooth edge. Now that can be used for sardine cans, square cans or round cans, exactly the same way. Now this tool here, my dear friends, needs no introduction. This will save you on an average of $20 to $30 every year you use it as a peeling knife. Here's a grater for cheese, coconut, or horseradish, a fish scaler for scaling your fish, and when you're coring your apple, it's just a slight twist of the wrist, and there's the apple core. There's one more tool that I want you to see, and I want you to watch this one very closely. Many a times when you're baking a pie, you have a pudding in the oven. I've seen ladies wrap a towel around your hand, and many a times you burn your fingers. Hook this onto the pot like this and lift the hot pots off the top of the stove. You've got a pie pan in the oven. Get a hold of the pie pan like this. Why, you couldn't get it off with a team of horses. This will positively lift 100 pounds. There's a pail of water weighs 50 or 60 pounds. That's the way you pick it up. But there's one more tool. I'll be all through and I'll be finished. Oh, now the next tool and the last one is what they call the Sarah Bernhardt cutter. This was invented by the head chef of the Imperial Hotel in the city of Berlin, Germany. You place the screw into the center of the vegetable. Twist the vegetable until the threads catch a hold, then you wind this up. You keep winding until you utilize the whole potato. The faster you turn, the quicker the slices. Why, ladies, here's a machine for slicing onions. The first onion that you slice with this cutter, you'll bless the day you've got a hold of it. Every slice cut exactly the same thickness. Every slice cut the same size. In making what they call a rosette, pull the vegetable out like this. Pin the ends together with a toothpick. Drop that potato into the hot fat and fry it. That will come out like a donut, golden brown. If you're serving a nice fish dinner, a little parsley goes in the center with the fish all around it, makes a very appetizing dish. Did you ever try to slice onions with a knife? You know how you get one thick slice and one thin slice? Run the knife through the center. That will separate each slice individual. Almost like magic, there is every slice cut exactly the same thickness and the same size. Wouldn't you like to have a set like this in your kitchen? Why, of course you would. Now don't forget, attend this theater every week and receive this 12-piece fascinating... Ladies and gentlemen, the management of this theater takes great pleasure in making this announcement. To each lady attending this theater each week will receive absolutely free a fascinating 12-piece kitchen cutlery set, one piece each time. It is really interesting and amazing to know how you can prepare your meals in an appetizing and pleasing manner. There's an old saying, and a true one, that what is pleasing to the eye is bound to be pleasing to the appetite. I'm going to demonstrate this set to you, and I want you to watch it very closely. The first cutter that I'm going to show you, now this first one is known as the Parisian cutter. Wind it through the potato like a corkscrew. When the cutter appears on the opposite side, pull the cutter out. Place the handle in the center and twist it out. This is what they call a French curl. When you fry these, they come out like donuts, nice and brown. Serve them with your steaks or pot roast them. Unwind it, there's two curls out of the one potato. Tomorrow morning for breakfast, wind a little strip of bacon around the potato and serve them with bacon and eggs. They're delicious. different colored vegetables, wind them together, and you get the two colors. Here's a little trick cut. Split the curl halfway through the center. If you're making a shrimp salad and you happen to run short of shrimp, mix these in with the regular shrimp. On my word, you couldn't tell the difference until you start to eat 'em. Now the rest of the potato, you stuff it. We'll call this a little chicken. We'll call this here some hamburger. You might have a little meat that's been laying in the ice box for a few days. Chop the meat up fine, season it highly, stuff it into the center of the potato and bake them with the skins on. When they're done, cut them in two. Serve them on the half shell just like that. Serve them in slices when company calls. The more company you have, the thinner you cut the slices. If your mother-in-law calls, give her a beak piece like that. Now the second tool in the set is known as the garnishing knife. Everything you cut with this must come out fancy. Watch this, please. You cut down, you turn the potato, and then you cut through the edge. First one way and then the other. Sweet potatoes cut like this, drop them into a little batter of pancake flour and fry them. When they're golden brown, sprinkle molasses on them. Serve them with strips of bacon for breakfast while they're delicious. Here's beets, you pickle them, and carrots, you steam or cream them. In making the original French fried potato, cut them in thick slices. Put them one on top of each other. Cross-cut the slices, and you'll never eat a French fry any other way. The potatoes cut like this will not absorb the fat because they're garnished around. Pineapples cut for your pineapple and cheese salad, cut them the same way. Here is one, and this is a dandy. Cuts any thickness or any size. Open it for a thick slice, close to the top for a thin slice. Saratoga chips, you can make them for 3 or 4 pennies a pound. Just pull the blade towards you like this. If you want the slices thicker than this, open the blade, there's a thick slice. Shoestrings for your Friday fish dinner, cut them down like this. Chop them up for your vegetable soup. What this knife is really intended for is for cutting the cabbage. You know the old-fashioned board, how you rip and tear, sometimes nipping the ends off your fingers. Lay it flat and pull it lightly towards you over the cabbage. The weight of the knife across the cabbage is all that's necessary. Why, ladies, when you get slaw cut as fine as this, you'll certainly appreciate eating it. The crowning feature of the set is the cutter that I'm going to show you now. This is known as the Champion Vegetable Mincing Knife.
Hello everyone, how we doing this evening? Got some butter, hopefully thawing out here, for making our pot pie topping. Got some pork out of the freezer that I'm still trying to dry down a little bit. Gonna have to obviously pull a little bit of the fat off of that, I don't know. Debating if I want to add some of the tomatoes since I have these heirlooms. I didn't end up rolling them into the sauce because I thought they would just get lost after I got some good char on that other tomato for the lasagna the other day. I'm gonna do like a sort of simple stew, but I'm not gonna be stewing the meat because that's a very quick cook. So I'm just gonna sear that and then cut it up and throw it in the stew at the end. This sort of the same with the spinach too, so it's really sort of a quick stew. Evening, Gala. How you doing this evening? So we got that going, and additionally, I'm also, since the Blitz puff pastry, which I've done before on Mixer, is going to be only about an hour or so, and then our cook time, so that's only going to be about 2 hours for us. Decided to make things a little bit more complicated for myself, and we're going to start the fermentation on a slaw, or in this case, a relish, for later on next week. I'm going to be doing pupusas next week, and so this slaw is going to be fermenting for that. So let's get music going so you guys don't have to keep listening to my refrigerator. Okay, where do I want to start with things tonight? I want to get things going for that dough first. I'll need another one of these for the slaw later. And I'm going to put a pound of flour, half of it AP, and please tell me I have next to no pastry flour, do I? Never mind. Okay. Lasagna was great. Lasagna is still great. Some great photos of how it turned out in the end. I put them all over the place. My mind is all over the place tonight. I don't know what's up. You guys aren't going to be able to really see that, but I meant you to clear, not to turn off. There we go. So, half pound AP flour. What'd you make? Come on. It's all packed in there. Which means I probably should have sifted this. I still might. But what I'm going to do to start is take this flour and put it in the refrigerator. Actually, better yet, I'm going to put it in the freezer. There's room. There's not. Roast ham with butter noodles and steamed carrots for dinner. Homemade and hash and browns and eggs for breakfast. Sounds good. Well, you cook for your audience anyways. going with everything else here. We'll take our that I don't need right now. Come on, work with me. Grab out our spinach, which we'll need considerably later. Green pepper, we'll need that later. What I'm really in here for is this head of purple cabbage. Thank you. Glad to have you here. And I'm gonna thin slice this, or if you got a mandolin at home, it's a little bit safer for you. Especially if you got a dishwasher. Mandolins are a little bit of pain to clean by hand, so I just prefer to use my knife. But throw that bowl over here. Now this really calls for, I believe, a half head of cabbage, but I purposely got a rather small guy so that I'm just using it all. Thank you for the follow, Uterin. And some of those are a little bit long. That. Take butter off the board here and put that up there. It's a little bit better looking for you guys. Thank you for the host, Molly McNuggets. I just sort of like to change things up. I like using different techniques, trying new things out. Always something different to try, even though it may be rather minor. I mean, for the Blitz Puff pastry, which I've done before on stream, I'm using a method that I keep meaning to do on stream tonight, and that's where I chill my flour ahead of time so that it's cold. My butter, which is now out here in the open, I'm going to throw in the refrigerator now, came out of the freezer, so I was warming this up from frozen earlier. So just throw that with the flour. And so that way everything's cold, everything stays a bit colder rather than you adding, or I adding cold butter into warm flour. But it's also a recipe that I know pretty well. I've done many times before. So this, on the other hand, I am relatively new to. I've been studying and reading on fermentations. I've got Noma's fermentation book, and yeah, a lot of interesting stuff that I'd love to toy with, but I don't want to get too heavy into fermentation because I don't love all of it. At the same time, I'm very intrigued by it, but I don't know that I want to eat all of it. But I also have a Monday morning stream that I just started since I've been here on Twitch. This is going to be the third one on tomorrow morning, where I sort of talk over. You can see down below I have next week already planned, but tomorrow morning I'll plan the week after, and so we'll add 3 more days on there for the next week with things we'll discuss there on the stream. And I'm sort of a Formula One nut, so I've been sort of talking about Formula One, and if there's any food or business news to catch my eye, you know, so sort of hang out and chat for about an hour and give you guys a little bit of a both insight into how I choose things and to have a little bit of a say in what I do, which is the real reason that I'm doing it. I am realizing that I didn't core this onion before slicing it, so I am going to be lazy about it now and just do that. Cool. I'll be honest and say that I've actually been a little uneasy about it because I find it easy to sit here and talk about what I'm doing as I'm doing it. I have a much harder time just sitting there and talking to talk. Sit flat. I think half of that's probably going to be plenty of onion for this. Let me double check the ratio to see if it isn't like heavy with onion or something. It's pretty heavy with onion. Yeah, let's do the other half of this onion too. Take the core out this time. Yeah, it's true for many things. Especially now today where most everything you can just look up online how to do. It's a matter of how much time and effort you want to put into the things you care about. The whole time is more valuable than the money thing. You see, unlike the guy at the beginning, my peeler does not have an apple core. I do think I have an apple core around here. I know I have an apple core. I don't know if I have it in this house. I would guess that I don't. I have a different type of core than I was thinking of, but it's not really an apple core, I don't think. I think I'm gonna go box grader with these guys. It is a part of many videos that I've used. I used to have a whole bunch of them for my intros, but I was getting into trouble with the audio even though the videos are public domain. I forget the name of the actual archive, but it's an archive that's owned by the Library of Congress / Smithsonian. And it's all things that are, it's a whole bunch of videos that are either just public domain, were sponsored by major U.S. companies, or were sponsored by the government, or and so it's in with that somehow. But there was a whole bunch of other videos that I have that I have a couple of them on coffee. I have a couple of them on the U.S. agricultural system. I have several of them on meat processing and chicken processing that I decided not to use because it might disturb people. Yeah, if you look it up, it's all part of archive.org too. It's all on archive.org. But it's a massive archive. But also, like I said, I've gotten into with YouTube, not on Twitch, gotten into issues with audio in the video that's public domain still being claimed and demonetized on YouTube. No worries, man. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the lurk. wants to be difficult. Okay, let's get the rest of that dough working now that I've got all that in there. I'm gonna quick clean up the board a little bit here, but I want to switch back and get that dough formed together so that it's able to rest before I start folding again. Because while it is a quick laminated dough, it's a laminated dough. Butter wrap is compostable. So this is the major difference between a Blitz puff pastry and a proper puff pastry. Is proper puff pastry, you're creating a quick dough with water and flour. The water you're not really using; you're just using it to pull the flour together, and then you're creating an envelope to put a large pat of butter in so that it stays in one gigantic strong layer. In this case, it's a little bit closer to biscuit method, where we're going to add large chunks of butter, mix it all together quickly, and get it back in the refrigerator, and then roll it out and layer it like you would a laminated dough, but in a much quicker method and fashion. So make sure we get all these individually coated in that now at least slightly chilled flour. Need a little bit of cold water here. I'm eyeballing about 6 ounces there. So that, once we get that's into a sort of shaggy dough here, that will come together here. If I wanted to sit here and work that flour, I don't. I want to get this back into the fridge and continuing to stay cool and cooling down further. So make sure that's all hanging out together and back in the fridge. Back to the slot. Okay, we got our onion, we got our carrot, we got our cabbage. Now we need our garlic. I'm gonna use 3 of these cloves. It calls for 1, but who needs a razor blade? garlic. There we go. There we are. One of these from later in the week. And 2 Serranos. So we got some heat here too. Not a ton of heat, but we got heat. Take my thumb and just run them down. Pull that seeds in the, I don't know, white ribbing, whatever you want to. It has a proper term that I just don't know off the top of my head. And sometimes it falls apart like that. If you're sensitive to heat, this is maybe something you want to put gloves on for. But Serranos they shouldn't give you that much of a problem. They're pretty mild. At least compared to other hot peppers. Dropped the last piece in compost, unfortunately. Dried oregano. Going to be adding quite a bit here. 2 teaspoons for dried herbs. That's I guess it's not a huge amount either. Hello there, Mr. Lendiggity. Welcome. Working on making a fermented slaw here. Salvadorian style slaw serve as a condiment for later on next week. And I got some pork out here that I'm going to use for making some pot pies. Working on making some dough slowly. It's in the fridge right now. And let's see what else we got in here. We need oil and salt and apple cider vinegar. Nice. Quarter cup of apple cider vinegar. Quarter cup of oil. I'm adding the vinegar and the oil because I am aging it for several days. If you're doing a quick ferment slaw, just like overnight, something like that, you may want to skip that or add it as to taste after you've let it, just that first day. And how much salt are we doing with this? 5 teaspoons, which, since we're leaving this out, this is acting as our preservation. That seems like a lot of salt. That is a lot of salt, but we're using that as a tool here to extract moisture and keep this from spoiling in a way we don't want. We got everything in here now. Yep. Okay, so I have. Let's see if we can cram all of this in there after we get this tossed together a little bit. We got red cabbage, we got white onion, carrot, serrano pepper, dried oregano, and we're gonna let this set for the better part of a week here, just on the counter. This is actually pretty similar to, I've got a recipe or a slaw that I concocted on my own that was really just a theme on purple at the time. I went through and found all the red veggies and used all the red veggies with it. And heavy apple cider vinegar slaw. Boy, that didn't go over well the last time I'd used that, though. It turned out well. It just didn't go over well. Excuse me. It fit pretty well. And so this we need to make sure that once we get it decent, it's going to take a little while here to chill and allow that salt to drain moisture out. But once we start getting the moisture here, we want to make sure that the solids are below the liquids, which will happen. We got to wait for that salt to do its magic here first. Set this off to the side for a little while here. Set it off to the side for a couple of days, but I'm going to put a cover on it before I call it quits. Okay, so where are we at now with things? We have that done, that done. Let's see how our dough is ready if we can form this into more of a dough than just a shaggy mass. But so far all we have here is pastry flour, AP flour, butter, salt, and water. By weight, we have equal amounts of butter and flour. And just enough water to get everything to come together. Which still maybe slightly on the light side for that, but chance of contaminating things here. That. Should put you back on the cutting board. Basically, you're going to do simple envelope fold here just to get it going as far as our lamination. We want to roll this, or I want to roll this out down to about the level of the thickness that I cut the butter in originally, even though some of it's going to get squashed, obviously. Just gonna sort of envelope fold everything here, sort of fold it all in on itself, so it's all sort of contained one little envelope or book. Supposed to be a flaky dough, so you know it's the fact that it's pulling off and sticking to the roller is the only real bad thing about that is it means it's slightly too warm. But I guess if you wanted to, you could cool the roller too. I've worked in, or at least I've staged in restaurants that are fancy enough to have chilled working rooms for things like this and fish and chocolate. So there we go. All sort of lightly folded at least once. We've created at least 9 layers. And back into the fridge to continue chilling back down or staying cold, or however you wish to frame that. We'll revisit this in another 20 or 30 minutes. Since I'm not wearing headphones or anything, if anyone's got any opinions on the music, to vote them down, or too quiet or too loud, let me know. It's day 3 or 4 here using Pretzel Rocks, or stream 3 or 4. Alright, let's get going with our stuff for our so-called stew here. We're going to make both of these guys tonight. Use this one for searing the pork. We'll use this one for making our stew. Got pork stock defrosted already from the previous stream. We got a little butter chilling out there. We're going to start by sauteing a little mirepoix. So I'm going to grab red onion over here. Yeah, actually, thank you for reminding me that. There, is that better? I've had the gain down on that mic. We have a dueling mic here set up here, so I try to make this guy the dominant mic, but I'm not a sound guy, so it's all a little foreign to me. So I'm just going to slice this guy up like normal. Yeah, that's where Landiggy, that's where I get into issues with the music, unfortunately. Now, I guess I can turn it down on... I can turn my desktop audio down. Slightly. But as far as on... Pretzel Rocks, I've got it down around like 2 or 4%, and it wants to skip a couple at a time every time I touch it with the mouse. I've basically got it muted according to their thing. Sorry, I just noticed that. Actually, that was last of it. Let's grab some more water here. Add on and leave a little bit more of that, Luna. Welcome back. Celery's getting a bit old. I said that last time I used it too. Oops. All right. Turn the stove on there. And let's throw a little throw a little lard in the pan. Fan on low here. So far, well, it's only a thing when I get the whole thing rocking that it doesn't want to cooperate, and I sort of understand that it's probably got high heat cutoffs on things. I mean, the other night I had the oven at 450, I think, and 2 burners operating. I can understand about wanting to do a third. It's not a commercial stove where I've got a huge amount of gas input to it, so it's only got so much heat that it can produce at once. Or I said last night, but on Friday. So no, it's not giving me any issues. Thankfully. Close my bedroom door so I don't set off my smoke alarm. Saw a streamer do that the other day. I've done that to a couple times myself on stream. It's always fun. It's usually where this is smoking, but it's smoking so lightly that I'm not concerned about it. But it is still building up around here. So tonight I'm going to open a bottle of 3 Wishes Merlot. If you guys are familiar, I've been talking about this regularly, so the people are returning now. But I'm sort of working my way through the Whole Foods $3-4 bottles of wine here, and so this is their, depending on where you are, $3 or $4 bottle of Merlot. We're drinking fancy tonight. This is the second one I had. The first one I was rather surprised by, actually. I rather enjoyed the Chardonnay that they had. It wasn't just a giant oak bomb. Another fake cork that I'm going to throw out. I saved the nicer corks. Very dark wine. If it wasn't such a cheap wine, I would say that this needs to age just from the color. Not loving the smell of this one as much as I did of the Chardonnay. Let's see. not offensive. It's not very exciting at the same time. Got a bit of salt there. Throw in our other veggies. I don't know, there's just it's a cheap wine, so but there's some sort of smell there that's being created by some process or something they're doing there that's just doesn't quite smell. It's a nice, smooth, like almost buttery, rich. Not a whole lot of fruit flavor, but on the fruitier end, almost jammier. But it's I just don't get any like particular dark fruit out of it or anything. Bit of pepper. Bit of ahi namak of MSG. A couple drops of my fermented garlic honey. Which started last year. Just garlic honey and a little apple cider vinegar to bring up the pH. I put that in everything. Amazing on pizza crusts, that sort of thing. But awesome for adding just a little hints of sweetness and garlic flavor to all sorts of things when you're cooking. You see we're already, well, I turned it so you get, but water level's already about here. We're going to continue to let that sit and the salt do its magic, but we'll give that a push down here before we finish up. And that is going to sit on the counter until, oh, I forget, is it Friday next week I'm doing pupusas? Or is it Sunday? Haven't made pupusas before, entirely new. Went out and bought masa to try and do it, which I'm sort of torn on because I sort of want to try and do my own nixtamalization at some point. But it's a little bit more than I want to take on right now. I'm realizing this is really sweet too. There's sugar. Oh yeah, there's all sorts of sugar on that glass. It doesn't taste sweet, but it's sweet. We got green pepper from earlier in the week. I saved most of it for tonight's dinner. And we got our spinach. Elements, why do you keep saying that? How do I fix that so it doesn't keep trying to say emotes when you can't see my emotes? Toss these guys in. We're just gonna sort of sweat those in with the other veggies that were sort of melting away to next to nothing. Yeah, spinach we're gonna give a rinse off here. Guys on the outside here, I'm just going to get rid of. On that now. I'm just going to let that hang out while I work on the spinach and roll out the dough once more. Actually, I lied. I'm going to add a bit of flour to this and get this going with some stock. Spoonful of flour here, trying not to spill it all over the place. Coat all of our veggies. I'm going to use this as our thickening agent. That's going to be enough actually with the stock I'm going to pour in there shortly. I turned it down a little bit more. Yeah. Heat up to simmer or light boil there. Get this a little bit of a stir more. Okay, gonna let that sit there and simmer at that point. Now we're gonna come back here and roll out our dough once more. Cool. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure that I set the compressor settings right too. The last time I did it, I was sort of rushed in figuring it out, and then once it was working, I just left it. Permanent temporary fix. So once again, rolling this out to about the thickness of what I did the butter into, which is about 1/2 inch or so. And the concept behind this and all other laminated doughs is it's going to puff up. It's not, because I'm doing a different method than puff pastry, this isn't going to puff up as much as puff pastry. But what we're doing is we're creating layers of butter, hopefully unmelted butter, and flour. And the unmelted butter, when we put it in the oven, is going to melt and create steam. And that steam then creates our air pockets in our pastry. Compared to, say, yeast gassing or chemical leaveners like baking soda or baking powder, they're causing a chemical reaction spurred on by either moisture or heat, and or moisture and heat, and then create gas. Thank you for the host chaos star, sir. Sorry, I didn't notice that right up. Welcome back. How are you doing this evening? And I think I'm going to leave it at that and throw that back in the fridge one more time. Probably should have done a quarter recipe around the dough. I have a feeling I'm going to have way too much dough for my estimated 2 pot pies. Yeah, the dough will stay frozen for a long time, just like puff pastry dough. So I'm not too worried about it going bad, but I am making more than I'm needing. Seems to be a habit in my life. Do want to make sure that this isn't sticking it all now, since I added all that flour in there. Less worried about the veggies. Have a good one, Lynn Diggity. Mr. Land Diggity being one of my former mixer compatriots, gaming and music streamer. You should guys go give him a check out. I'm going to go through and just pull off the majority of the stems on this spinach, making sure that the leaves are spinach, which I have a feeling that this is going to be all spinach, but I often buy spinach at farmers markets, and farmers market spinach is often a mix of 3 other things along in there. You'll have baby kale, you'll have stuff like that. Mustard greens, bok choy, all sorts of weird stuff. They grow together. And get rid of the wonderful things like turn that down a little bit. That's simmering a bit hard. That did thicken up nicely. A little worried that I'd thrown a bit too much flour in there, but I think that's going to be just about right. I'm actually going to reserve some of this spinach. I think this is probably enough for our little stew here. And I can throw this into something a little bit else later on in the week. So I'm going to throw these in Ziploc here with a vented lid. Did have to curl them a little to fit them in there.
Yo, what's going on?
I went to the trouble of oiling my kitchen counter just before the stream here, which it was a beautiful shiny. It still is beautiful and shiny over here, and in places where I haven't touched it or anything. And I'm coating it with flour tonight. So to dry these out, I'm gonna lay them out with a little paper towel. And roll them up. Trying to keep the paper towel a little bit off of the board there because the board is still quite moist. Bamboo board for a raw meat. Yeah, that's probably something closer to what you're used to from the supermarket, huh? Okay. I'm gonna pull the bone off of this before. I am my butcher. Well, at least when it came to this. I bought a half pig a month and a half ago now. Month and a half ago. And broke almost all of it down on stream here. I've still got one more ham leg to break down. And I got lots of other pork still to cook. Come on. That little weird notching on the other side of this bone always gets me. I'm going to toss that in with the stew to simmer. Yeah, it was for me, it was almost primarily a financial decision because the cost of getting good quality meat here, and I'm talking pasture raised meat, this animal was raised 20 minutes from me and slaughtered locally. The whole thing was within 15 miles of my house. But the cost of that, with breaking it down, and with the fact that I bought a freezer to hold it all, it breaks out to somewhere around $4.50 a pound. Which for pasture-raised meat, I mean pork, you can find conventional pork for $1-2 a pound. You're not going to find that for the bacon though. and I've got like 25-30 pounds of bacon in there right now. I got at least 25 pounds that I cured, and probably another 5 pounds of uncured belly. And but it does have all the bone weight in with that too. But I've made stock with all of it. I've rendered. I mean, I've got a fair amount of fat here on my board, but I've already rendered out over a gallon of lard from the animal. So that's all. I'm actually trying to not grab that bottle of sunflower oil because I'm trying to use up the lard that I have around the house. Let's go and do this guy whole like that. Get our pan rocking here. Pull that away from the heat. And this time I am going to use sunflower oil because it's higher heat than the lard. Or at least a higher smoke point. I know that the new argument for olive oil, paid by the olive oil companies, is that smoke point does not necessarily mean degradation of oil point. Yeah, they want to sell it to you as bacon. It's the case in most of it. Get ourselves some heat going there. We'll add salt to this guy. I believe in salting meat with essentially as much salt as it will hold with its skin, or with the exterior. And we're still not there with the pan. So tonight's wine, drinkable, but obviously it's hard to show on the camera, but full of residual sugar. It's got a bit of an off smell that's got me wondering what they did to process it. But at the same time, it's not offensive. And it's a $3 wine. So I'm not rushing to down that tonight, but it's not bad wine at the same time. Just wondering if that was going to fit. I'm going to turn the oven on here to 400 degrees. Off of the bone for two reasons. First off being that when it's on the bone, the meat, all it's better for presentation, all that fun stuff, is going to pull up closer to the bone, and it's going to strain itself and make it cook a little bit less uneven in the pan. And the second reason is the bone itself acts as like a heat sink, and so it's going to reduce its it's going to reduce the temperature of the meat that's closer to the bone. It's going to give us an evener sear on the outside and evener cook throughout. And that's about right where I want it. I'm going to cut the heat on that. And I'll put that on a plate for now. Fat here for a moment, see if we can't get a little color on the fat. It's obviously still medium rare. The idea is this is going into the stew, so I obviously don't want to cook the heck out of it, but I do want to get some nice flavor on the outside as much as I can. But it's not a stew meat, so it's just going to get tough if I let it sit in that liquid and continue to cook for a long period of time. Welcome back, Cargo. Well, we're getting there. Let's get that dough one more spin around here. And by this time we should have a pretty good formed dough. It's actually not too far off here right now. You please to put this without it getting dirty. Thank you, for the host. Last envelope fold here before I roll this out for the actual pot pies. I am preheating the oven now to 400 degrees for the pot pies. These are thirds once again. And back into the fridge. Normally want to let this sit quite a while, but that's already been chilling on the stove there for a little while, so I'm risking it a bit early here. It's a little bit too fatty right there. We'll skip those two pieces. Still medium rare. Maybe on medium, maybe medium well there once we let it rest another minute. Welcome, you. How you doing this evening? But we're turning it into stew meat, so that's fatty parts we're gonna toss. We'll toss this over here into we already got our T-bone from earlier chilling in there with all of our other meat. It's over here to be cleaned again. I am doing quite lovely this evening. All sorts of fun stuff going on. Got our spinach here ready to go into that pan. Doing pot pies tonight. I've got the start of a slaw. going here. This is going to be, or rather, a condiment, but a fermented slaw that I'm going to be serving next week. Going to use our pan here for cooking the spinach. Got our dough almost ready to go. Things are looking good. Looking good. Want to keep the spinach moving in the pan, don't want it to get all wilted in one spot. I mean, we are going to throw it into here and it is going to get completely cooked through, but then we'll cut the heat there. And just go straight into there, other than the stuff I drop on the counter. All sorts of messes. Having fun. Alright, so we got spinach, we got green pepper, we got pork, we got some mirepoix, we got some flour thickened pork stock in here, and we got the bone from our pork just sort of chilling. I'm going to cut the heat on that and just let that rest. Need to let this come down closer to room temp so that it's not absolutely heating up our butter in our dough when it goes into the oven. So I didn't end up using that bait. There we go with that. Actually, I'm almost tempted to throw that in the fridge or something to cool that down. I think I'm just going to do the quick on top and throw it in the oven method here. Not give it a chance to really melt the butter. Let's see here. I think I probably got enough there for 3 of these guys. These are my little pot pie dishes. They're little cutesy guys. I love them. But I just bought them at the supermarket, so they're nothing special at the same time. So we'll divvy up our stew here into different dishes here. There we go. Put away the last of this pork stock here. I've got sitting on the counter on the whole time, but I just defrosted it, so I'm not too worried about its timeline at the moment. We're good with the stove. We can cut that for right now. Okay. I think I want to chill for about 5 minutes here and let this cool down a little bit. Give the dough a little bit more time in the fridge. And sip on my questionably cheap wine here. So how is everyone this evening? Anything new to report? What has happened in the last 2 hours that I've been sitting here putzing in the kitchen? Any new things to report? I made quite the list of dishes here this evening. Oh, it seems worse than it is. We can get rid of this. Put it in piles, it seems like it's less. I am going to take some water and rub water on the edges of the glass here so that the pastry forms a nice seal. Refresh my water so that's ready for that. I'll just steal it out of my water glass. Stick my finger in the water. Water level is almost up there with the cabbage now. Like I said, should be about another hour or so here, and then that should be well underneath the liquid level, and it'll stabilize. that's going to stay out here to stay warm, room temp, for several days. We'll go back to rolling out our dough here. Let's make our tops to our puff pastry now. Dark aprons and flour don't work that well, but especially when you have a fan blowing at you, to make sure it flies all against you whenever you dust your counter or what you're working on. So we don't want this paper thin, but you don't want it super thick either, because it is going to puff up at least some, hopefully. I'm going to roll it out. I'm going to guess about 1/4 inch thick. But I'm not being exact. I don't have one of those rollers with the right size or anything like that. I'm just sort of guesstimating. Let's grab a clean glass here to use as our cutting guide. Just cut around, loosely around this guy. Then I'm going to take that apple corer I was talking about before, actually use him to cut a vent hole in the center. And well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to do all 3 of these together because I'm worried about how warm the stews are. Actually, I'm going to take that the next step here too. I'm going to take these stews or pot pies, grab a pan, parchment, put them on pans, have them 100% ready to go right in the stove. See, this is my tomato pan from last week. It's still, you can still see the scars through the parchment, even though it's really just light and dark metal where the acidity got to it. But go. pepper core. Take our center pieces out on those guys. Alright, let's wet the tops of all 3 of these. Thank you, Mr. Toggs. How are you doing this evening? And dough over the top. And I didn't think about it, but I'm actually going to take another step here while it's still on these. And going to do a quick egg wash here. I am doing quite lovely. Slowly getting used to the transition here, and doing all right. How is Dragon World? Sorry, I forget the name of your game. That it is. That it is. And egg wash over the top of our pastry, just to give that nice golden brown. You don't do this, it'll still puff up nicely. It'll still be a nice one. This is just going to give us a real nice golden brown top to them. But I do want to get these in the oven quick. Like I said, I'm worried about that stew underneath these heating the dough up too much before it gets to the oven to heat it up. So going right into the oven now, oven at 400 degrees. And 15 minutes. Yes, it is. It's intimidating at the same time. I don't know what to think about it at the same time. Of course, we also have some other things going on here, like we got all the 24-hour channels. Sort of like Creative used to be on Mixer, where half the music people are radio people that are on 24 hours a day, or Chicken Stream, or but there are some mini great cooking streamers here. I've already had a couple of them host me. I've thrown a couple of nice hosts that I got from Mixer people over to them, which has worked out nice. But I still feel like I'm not the very, I mean, for streaming, this is the most out there and talkative I really sort of get. Maybe tomorrow morning. So I'm much more of a lurker, just hang out and watch and throw it on in the background while I'm doing stuff at home, sort of a thing. And so it takes me a lot longer to get to know all these people than I see a number of other streamers that just bounce in there and they're much more extrovert out there talking to everyone, getting to know everyone. And Alright, so like I said, made too much dough here. This freezes perfectly well. I'm trying to not work it too much more, but still get it into somewhat of a form that's usable. And I'll just tightly plastic wrap it and throw it in the freezer. 10-foot distance and before March. Try and push as much hair out as we can here. I mean, I know it's plastic wrap, it's not going to be perfect, but minimize our potential frosting up and icing up. So hopefully Florida's been treating you well. Weather been good. It's been rather meh this summer for me here in California. We've had a bunch of really hot days and not very many nice, typical Northern California, San Francisco solid 70s, which is why I want to be here. Can be thankful that you've missed the hurricane season so far from what I remember, though it's just getting started. Sounds like that's hitting southern Texas pretty heavy. Ooh, yeah. I remember talking about trying to do double duty there. What, you need my pastry knife? This is my new guy, I just got him. I just got him. This is my old guy. I dropped him on the floor one too many times. He was starting to go on this side too, but it decided to break, and so now it's in my utility closet. Still be good for other things, but not going to use it for food. I've got a gram scale over here too. Drinking Whole Foods Merlot 3 Wishes $3 bottle of wine, and I'm not nearly impressed with it as I was with the Chardonnay. Chardonnay I thought was a great wine for $3-4 bucks. This not so much. Not a lot of people in that business are. Of course, when you're in a business where everyone is trying to undercut each other. Welcome, Evangeline. How you doing this evening? Aww. We got things we're doing tonight. I have a batch of... We got some red cabbage, white onion, carrot, and serrano pepper with salt, oregano, and that's going to ferment here on the counter for the better part of the next week. There's some oil, some apple cider vinegar in there as well. We're going to let that ferment for the next couple of days. And that's going to be for with the pupusas next week. And in the oven with about another... Excuse me, got the hiccups going now. Oh, another 7 to 10 minutes here. We have 3 pork pot pies in the oven, baking up. Got homemade dough. I quick seared a pork loin and put that in a thickened, essentially, veggie stew. So we got pork and veggie stew with soup. The stew, we got spinach and green pepper and mirepoix. So we're waiting on that to bake up. We're just finishing up here. We're in the last 10 minutes or so. Also, was just saying I'm drinking this wine, but I'm not hugely impressed with it. I don't know if I'm actually going to finish this bottle. It's just with all that I read about what they're doing in cheap wine these days, to know that there's a slight off flavor that's giving me this feeling like there's nothing wrong with the wine, but it feels like they did something to the wine. Pupusas are a flatbread that are stuffed with beans and meat. Salvadorian. And this is also going to be, this looks like a slaw to us here in the US, but much like sauerkraut is a condiment, this is a condiment for them. And so that'll be sort of like our topping with that. I don't know what to really describe it as, other than maybe it's a little bit like a stuffed pancake, but we're going to be using masa flour, so corn flour, for the base. But it's sort of a pancake, sort of a flatbread. It doesn't always use meat, but I'm planning on cooking up that pork loin roast, bone-in pork loin roast next week. And so this is the plan for using up the leftover meat from the pork loin roast after I'm done with the easy parts. There's I wouldn't be surprised if there's a pupusa shop nearby any one of you. There's one near me in downtown Santa Rosa. Downtown Santa Rosa being the major city of Sonoma County. It's the county seat where all the county stuff is. Sixth largest city in the San Francisco Bay. Let's clean our cast irons out while we're waiting. That always makes the kitchen seem a lot cleaner real easy. But it'll be my first time trying to make pupusas. I'm not going to use that after all. I pulled out the butter in case I was going to use some thrown pan or something. Didn't need it. Yeah, they're pretty popular places. There's a lot of them around. They've been popping up sort of like there's now pho places everywhere. And, well, now a lot of the pho places have turned into ramen shops, but... Gonna give this another mash down here. Continue to try and get this all down underneath the liquid. If you got a nice ceramic weight or something to throw in there, that's a good thing to have right now. Or maybe a cup with some stones, sanitary stones, like some baking stones in it, or something along that line. You do want to try and keep all that solid material underneath the liquid level. Don't need you tonight. Got you out and don't need you. Not too bad overnight here. A few things to clean up, but relatively low dish night. Evangeline, what's? I mentioned I was sorry you're feeling bad. What's going on? What's going on with your night, Nan Reader? Oh, a low dish night. Okay. Yeah, I can appreciate that. I don't love doing dishes. My poor table. I gotta say, and I went and oiled down my table here before the stream, and then, of course, cover it with flour, so my nice, shiny, clean table is all of a sudden now dull and flat and meh. Let's take a look and see what we got going here. Oh, those need a little bit longer. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna finish this bottle tonight. This is, it's that smell that's just throwing me off. But, I mean, I'm not heartbroken over pouring out a $3 wine. I might be more heartbroken if it was a bottle of wine that I spent money on. And they're saying American Merlot, even though it's made here in California. I think because they're saying American Merlot, it doesn't even necessarily mean the grapes are local. It just means they're from America. Still means they're probably still from California, but I'm a fan of slaw too. I haven't tried this before, and I mean, the recipe is very much coleslaw-like, or it's also very sauerkraut-like. But it's actually sort of like if you took coleslaw and sauerkraut and combined them together, because you get the carrot and the pepper and the onion in there. It's not just cabbage that's fermenting. Now, see, what type of coleslaw, Evangeline, or all types of coleslaw? I mean, I know a fair number of people out there. There's camps on both sides here. A lot of Americans seem to hate mayo. A lot of Europeans seem to love it at the same time. But there are slaws out there that are vinegary, mustardy, that are just fermented, unfermented. I'm not a huge sauerkraut guy either. I've made sauerkraut a couple of times. I do have this giant crock back here for making projects like that with. But I'm never going to go through, a 3-gallon batch. Sauerkraut. I certainly don't like it that much. I don't like it to probably go through more than a pint. Maggot coleslaw ruined it for all coleslaw. Yeah, I'm gonna shut up about cheese mites. I didn't tweet that I went live today. Oh well, sort of late to do that now. Yeah, I can see that. There's certainly some fast food joints that I don't trust. I've had my share of upset tummies on the road. Having flashbacks to a McDonald's at one point, actually. A little bit longer there. We're starting to get nice and puffed up. Starting to get browned around the edges. Don't have it browned all throughout, so we gotta keep going. Yeah. That's unfortunate, car guy. I can see, you know, family member being upset about their place not working out. Which happens a lot more than it should. It should be a lot easier for food businesses to survive and thrive. Haven't been to Texas Roadhouse in quite a while. Already almost through this thing. Gave my hand a little bit of a light surface burn earlier tonight, and it's not pink. It doesn't look like it's burnt at all. I am feeling that extra heat whenever I get it close to something right now. Yeah, there aren't too many pink lemonades that I consider all that hot. You can make real lemonade that's pink lemonade, but usually pink means artificial flavoring and color. Well, most lemonade these days is artificially flavored because the cost of citric acid is so cheap. It's so mass produced. I used to make lemonade at the farmers markets. I think you asked me that before, car guy. Yeah, they loved it, but it was rough trying to sell it to the guys next to me doing the powdered stuff for less money when I'm sitting there trying to sell the real thing squeezed from lemons. Not very fun. Because people care a lot more about that $2 difference than having something made from the real product it's intended to be. It's a problem with a lot of food these days. It's cheaper to eat McDonald's than it is to eat proper veggies. Let's give this another look in here. We were getting close here last time. I think I still want to give it another minute or two. Who has that one? But I also made mine like Hey Dreamers Arcade, welcome. How you doing this evening? Who's stream? I wasn't talking about another streamer, Carga. Oh, I'm quite lovely. We're not quite so happy this time with the Three Wishes Merlot. It's tasting to me like they've processed it somehow, and it's sort of making me meh. Otherwise, it's not offensive. And so for a $3-4 wine, yeah, I'm gonna leave it rather than take it. But oh, yeah, your emoji or emote. I haven't heard of that person either, but there's all sorts of streamers on Twitch that I don't know about because I didn't know everyone on Mixer, and Twitch is 10 times as large as Mixer. Well, at least it sounds like a happy child. Or maybe it's not so happy anymore. Quick, before the sugar runs out. Yes, car guy, I live in Sonoma County, Northern California, in wine territory. Cut the heat on the oven. Have a good one, Evangeline. Thanks for stopping by. Just missing it here. I'm just about to pull them out. Oh, yeah. There we go. Nice, car guy. So yeah, we got some nice little puffage on the sides here. Not, like I said, it's not going to puff up the same as puff pastry, but we do have some nice layers here. I'm going to pull one of these up so you guys can see it a little bit closer here. See, they puff up nicely a little bit there. We got them a little nice little flaky action looking here. Yes, one of these guys gonna be dinner for me. One of these guys is gonna be dinner on either Monday or Tuesday, and one of them will probably be lunch along that line. I do still have lasagna left over. I do still have a little bit of that chicken stew left over from Wednesday, so I got all sorts of food to finish up here before Wednesday. But let's see who we got out here who we can send some love to. Did you catch any of my last stream there, Car Guy? I made all sorts of stuff for lasagna the other day. Why don't we go say hi to Jer? Thank you guys all for joining me. I will be back here on Wednesday. Gonna be doing that bone-in pork loin next week. Going to be doing the pupusas next week. And I think I'm forgetting what I'm doing on Wednesday, but we have plans for Wednesday. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning, 9:30. So about 14 hours from now, a little less than that, and do a little 1-hour news, Formula One, and future recipe planning chat. One last time, thank you for joining me. Let's get this raid going, and I hope you all have a lovely evening. Any questions here before I send you off? All right. Have a good night, everyone.